Coming up next, Howl, do you like dem castles? Hey everybody, welcome to the Bookening. My name is Nathan, your humble and obedient host. If I was dead, I would be a ghost. If I was a braggart, then I would boast. If I was bread in a toaster, then I would be toast. If I had money, I'd have the most. I can't think of any more words. You got anything?
If you were on Survivor, you would be Jeff Probst.
If I was on Survivor, I'd be Jeff Probst.
I was kind of breaking the rhyme there.
Yeah, that was a bit of a slant rhyme. And from the poet, the published Irish Catholic poet himself.
Well, in Ireland, they say it Prost.
Yeah, Prost, yeah.
Prost.
You got any more?
If you were eating Madeleine cookie, you would be Prost, because I think they say it Prost instead of Proust there.
Really? In Ireland?
I don't know.
We probably don't have any listeners. on the continent.
Yeah, which is also Jake's over in Wales because he has his magic castle that he likes to go over there because he's a narcissist and chase after Welsh girls.
Yep. Jake's running a little late today, so we said we'd come up with a nasty story. That's not the nasty story.
That might have been too nasty.
Jake's in Wales like Jonah because he tried to flee from the podcast and he got eaten by a couple whales. Oh man, I'm not winking at you, Brandon. I got something in my eye or something.
Oh man, too bad. I thought you were winking at me.
Oh yeah, now I'm rubbing my eyes.
Hey, check that out. It looks like on my microphone, because my camera's really wonky and weird, it looks like my microphone's like badly CGI'd in front of me.
Yeah.
Doesn't it kind of?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like it almost looks fake.
Yeah.
Like I have one of those weird, even my ear headphones look strange. It's like I have one of those iPhone filters.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be there. You know? Like
famously Brandon refuses to appear anywhere without an iPhone filter to make his face look that much
fabulous.
Fabulous. Oh, man. Okay, I got this. I'm sorry, folks. We are going to talk about Howl's Moving Castle today. It's going to be a brisk, invigorating conversation about a book that we really liked. We're going to be on point. We're not going to spend 20 minutes talking about Harry Potter World or anything else for that matter. We are going to, just as soon as Jake shows up, we are going to launch into, I dare say, the best podcast anyone's ever recorded on the topic of Diana Wynne Jones, Howl's Moving Castle.
I dare say.
But right now, we're just waiting. Jake should be here like any second. I don't know what's going on with you there, Brandon. What is the most exciting thing that our listeners desperately want to hear about that's going on in your life?
We told them about the horses.
Did we tell them about the horses?
I don't know. I've got horses.
Yeah, you got horses.
Yep. When anybody comes over. If they're men, I give them whiskey, and I give my horses some beer. Mm-hmm. So,
is that a thing? Is that a reference to something?
Whiskey for my men and beer for my horses. Willie Nelson song.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Whiskey for my men, beer for my horses.
Well, fun story. Brandon wasn't sure whether he wanted to record any more Bookening, and I visited him, and he showed me his prize horse, and I said, I really think you should record more Bookening. And Brandon said, I don't know. I got better things to do with my time. And so what should happen? But Brandon wakes up covered in blood and
the head of one of my horses.
Yeah. What should be in bed with him but the head of his prized horse.
And then I swore vengeance on Nathan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we're both appearing on this podcast together.
Yeah, because this is a form of vengeance.
Yep. The only vengeance is on the listeners. Man, I had that whole time to try and think of some subversion to the Godfather story, but I could not think of I was trying to think of a parodic, like something else that you could wake up in bed with, but I don't know.
I know. I knew you were trying to think of something other than the horse's head, but
yeah, just
the head of the Green Knight.
Yeah, you gonna see that movie?
No.
Yeah,
looks like it has some stuff in it.
It's supposed to be pretty naughty, but it looks very artistic.
It looks lovely.
Yeah.
I said that with a smirk, so nobody thinks that I just use the word lovely unsarcastically. But it does look nice. It looks
nice. It looks like good. Come on, Jake. Save the podcast.
Jake.
All right. We had that really successful, awesome Godfather riff. Yeah. Now we need to have another topic. I don't know. Why don't you ask me a question?
Do you have any horses, Nathan?
I have 0 horses.
Do you have any pets?
I have 0 pets. I have 1 baby, 1 wife, and that's it. That's enough, really.
What are your hobbies?
I enjoy long walks on the beach.
Oh. But ladies, he is not single.
No, I'm not single, but I do enjoy it. Actually, I don't know that I've ever been on a long... How many long walks on the beach does one take? I mean...
I don't know.
If one
Fun fact, when this podcast started, Nathan was single.
Yes, it's...
very much ready to mingle.
Mm-hmm. But then I mingled and became...
He done mingled.
Yeah. Oh, I mingled. Oh, boy. Now I'm no longer single. No. All 3 of the Bookening women are married to the Bookening men. That sentence didn't come out the way I wanted to, but I think people understand what I'm saying.
A true statement nonetheless.
We all have women. I've got a picture somewhere on my phone of the 3 Bookening women all standing there smiling for a picture.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Jake said he was 5 minutes out, but I think we're over 5 minutes now. This is insane.
He's the king of mingling. Oh, Jake, here he is.
Here he is, the king of the mingle himself.
King of the mingle?
Mm-hmm.
The king of mingling.
The king of the mingle, no longer single. Brendan was just commenting on the fact that I'm not single, but that I used to be.
When the podcast started.
Could be said of any of us, but you guys have never been single. No lady has ever listened to the Bookening and dreamed of you guys. Or if she has, she's a jerk. Whereas every lady that used to listen to the podcast dreamed of me. And we famously had to hide my marriage for a couple of years so that there wouldn't be a rash of suicides across our listenership.
Yeah, it's true.
He's Jake Menzel. He's the pastor who's a master of reading. How's it going, Jake?
Good.
What's new?
I mean, I don't know. I want to tell you about things that probably I shouldn't be talking about on air. But that's all that's on my mind. So
okay, well, we'll talk about. Let's tantalize the listeners with that. You'll never know.
You'll never know. It has to do with Evansville, and it has to do with our church plant, and it has to do with potentially big, cool, awesome future things. What you should do is just move here.
Yeah,
everybody.
Then you'll know because you'll be experiencing it. You know what? Let's just talk about Howl. Jake wants to talk about top secret stuff, so let's get this Howl conversation on the mics for the dear listeners, and then we'll turn off the mics and
talk about other stuff. Well, yeah. I mean, my thoughts are it's a good book. People should read it. The end.
You think it's a good book and people should read it. Jake, your thoughts?
I agree with that entirely. I think it's one of the most fun and imaginative books that we've read. And I love the world building. And I think if you have a kid, I just think every kid should try out Diana Wynne Jones. And I think this is a great place to start. If your kid needs their imagination fired, she stands as good a chance as anybody of firing it. And if you have an imaginative kid who just loves having somebody outside the box to fire their imagination, she can do it. I just think she's really enjoyable for that reason. She's a good writer, fun plot, sweet story. This is a really great kids book or family book.
And not just kids. I mean, hang on just a minute. Anna, what are you reading right now? What author? She said Diana Wynne Jones.
Oh, we could hear. She's reading.
But we both did put our headphone ears up to our microphones.
She's in bed, and right now she's reading another of the Crestomantia, whatever.
Crestomantia, I think. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I said family. Like I think she's just a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, I wish this is maybe even more than Watership Down. Well, I think Watership Down is the superior novel, but
yes.
I almost wish more that I'd had this as a kid, because it's such a fun world to live in and to imagine sort of your own stories about, and just like the mechanics of the castle that can open up into different shop fronts and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that really fired my imagination as a kid. And I would have liked to have this as a touchstone.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is, like, I don't have any doubt that if I had read one Diana Wynne Jones book, if I had read this book, I'm a fanboy, as a kid. And that's cool to, like, have an author that you can just, man, I want more of that. That particular brand of crack is my brand of crack, and I want it, and she's got it.
Yeah.
And, for goodness sake, I got stuck on R.L. Stein. So, I mean,
yeah, she would have been better than that.
I dare say she would have been something of an improvement.
Well, and as a doodly dude growing up, I wouldn't have necessarily had to be embarrassed of her either.
Yeah, this is one of those books that interesting.
I mean, maybe I would have, but I wouldn't have cared. Like, she would have she would have beaten the impulse in me to be embarrassed, I think.
Yeah.
The way that Lewis did with Narnia.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I probably will read more Diana Wynne Jones books, actually. If I can ever make any kind of space in my life, she'd be right at the top of the kinds of books that I'd like to read more of if I ever had any time, which I won't, and I never will. But if I did, hypothetically, like on vacation or something, maybe I'll bring one along or something,
Yeah, I just keep thinking, I'm just going to stock my house with Diana Wynne Jones books that I won't read. Mm-hmm. But the more of them I have for my kids to find, great. Like,
the better.
Just get your credit card out and go to that Folio Society. They've got a nice version of Howl's Moving Castle and the second one, Castle in the Air or Castle in the Sky or something like that. Yeah, sure, and actually, they're for Folio Society, they're pretty cheap. It's like $65 American plus shipping,
60 or something. Yeah.
So you're looking at $80 American dollars, and I say American because anytime I go to that website, it pulls up as UK. I guess that's
pound.
Not bad at all.
Yeah,
we all have more money than we know what to do with.
That is one of the nice things.
We use $100 bills as our bookmarks.
As our toilet paper. I mean, let alone our bookmarks.
Yeah, I mean, we got the supporters, and so why not?
Yeah.
That's a little sarcasm, supporters. We need more of you, jerks. Why don't you support us?
We know you're out there.
Yeah. We love we're just kidding. We love our lurkers. But we could use some more support. We'd like to get up to 2K so we could do a deep dive. Our first ever truly deep dive. Well, I guess we tried to do Tolkien, but that was a mixed experiment, I will admit. But deep dive into Anna Karenina would just be, hey, here's some more handfuls of treasure. And
a whole year of Anna Karenina.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. That might be how long it would take.
How many chapters are in that book?
In Anna K?
Quite a few.
The best of Leo Tolstoy's novels. Let's see. How many chapters
but not the best of his fiction.
My name's Brandon. 239. 239 chapters.
Well, we could almost
make that deep dive last
chapter a day.
Whoa.
I don't know how we would do it. We would probably have to cut back at least on our regular book list, like maybe only do a half a year worth of regular.
How many was it again? 200 and what?
239 chapters, my friend.
So 240 chapters is, if we did it at the rate of 20 chapters a month?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. So
8 months. No, 12.
That'd be 12 months.
That would be a year.
2 times 12 is 24.
That year would rule. Guys. I mean, that
would be an awesome year.
Yeah.
Be the year that Brandon learns math too.
Good. So yeah, we could do intro in chapter 1, and then we could do 20 intro and I don't know.
When people don't forget, if you get us there before the end of the year, we will honor the deep dive by actually doing a deep dive into a 70-foot pit cave, where we will then read the introduction to Anna Karenina and record it live, because you get signal down there, I'm pretty sure.
That's a horrifying thought, but
We did say
that.
Oh, yeah. But our listeners, they're not going to get us there by the end of the year.
Oh, you don't think they love us enough?
I don't believe in them.
Well, they might not love us enough, but maybe they hate me and Jake enough. Maybe they're like, wow, Nathan's meandering introductions have ruined 6 years of my life. Let's make that dude rappel into a cave. Hopefully his rope fatly breaks.
That would be awful if somebody ends up falling in.
Yeah, that would be bad. Somebody ends up falling into the cave. Well, speaking of caves, let's dive deeper into the cave of wonders that is Howl's Moving Castle. Hey, guys, what's
there are no caves in this?
There are no caves in this book?
Go ahead, Nathan. Your question was going to be a better segue.
You were going to say there's no caves in this book, though.
I was.
I mean, that's a good direction to take the podcast too. there's a lot of meat on that bone. What do you think, Jake, about the fact that there's no caves in this book?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm always glad when there's not caves. Actually, that's a good point. It is kind of weird that there's no caves in this book. I bet you there's a lot of caves in the work of Diana Wynne Jones. She just feels like the kind of person.
Hang on just a minute.
Yeah.
I have an expert to ask.
Yes.
Anna, does Diana Wynne Jones ever have any caves in her books? She says no.
Oh, okay.
That's why she's my hero.
Anna or Diana Wynne Jones?
Yes.
Are you paying attention when you read these books?
Are you still talking to her?
She didn't answer that question.
Yeah. Anna famously takes 3 or 4 Valium and then reads some Diana Wynne Jones. That's like the Anna. That's an evening at Brandon's house, basically. No, we love Anna. I'm sure she doesn't do that. She's one of our...
her favorite author is William S. Burroughs.
Yeah, exactly. She did also famously shoot you to death.
She did. Ghost Brandon.
Ghost Brandon. That's right.
Get us back on track, Nathan.
Okay, here's the question. What is the difference between whimsy that makes you want to barf and whimsy that is delightful? Because this book, I think, I have the sense, is right on the edge of making you want to barf, but because it doesn't cross the line, it's absolutely delightful. But it is very sort of twee and fey, and, Sophie was the oldest of daughters, so nothing would ever happen to her because it's not that kind of a story. It is just, it does have a little bit of that prancing, winking quality, and yet it doesn't suck. So... why not, is my question, which I don't have an answer to, by the way. I'm genuinely curious what your thoughts are.
Well, an easy way to start this would be to think of an example that does that and sucks because of it. So do you have anything in mind?
Oh, that's a good question. Gaiman's Stardust, if you ever saw that movie or read that book, it would be an example.
I thought you liked Neil Gaiman.
I do like Neil Gaiman, but Stardust is very like, hey, look at me.
Twee and... cutesy.
Yeah.
The Twilight series.
Yeah, no, well, those aren't really twee or cutesy, but there's something.
Wes Anderson can be a little twee and cutesy sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Wes Anderson would be an example of a, hey, look at me kind of a person. Aren't I being cute?
Except he's actually pretty good at it.
Yeah. Who is the author we've read who's the cutest or thinks that they're being cute? Look at how I use the words. I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, I don't want to open that can of worms again.
What can of worms is that? Or should we really not open it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's completely true. So it's a little bit of where A.A. Milne's condescending tone comes from, but he's not really twee and cutesy.
Yes.
So, but it is a little bit. So it's probably just not worth even saying.
I don't know. I feel like I've read a lot of fantasy novels. Maybe this is a fantasy thing, and I'm just more aware of it because I've read a little bit more fantasy than you, where it kind of has that self-aware thing where it's like...
irony.
Yeah, well, but it's not the Shrek kind of irony where they just hate everything. It's more like the Tangled, I guess, would maybe be an example. Like, look, it's the fairy godmother, and it's the thing, and aren't we being cute?
Like Disney in the late '90s, early 2000s with Hercules and Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, I mean, they're a little bit more jokey than her.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a different way to ask it is, what's the difference between good meta and bad meta?
Yeah. Well, she's never completely self-aware with it, right? Like to the point that it just draws attention to itself and draws you out of the story. I guess in a lot of ways she's like Jane Austen. She's good at balancing that sort of free and direct style where she's both extremely present in the story, but also letting the story run its course.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, she actually, Jane Austen is. I'm glad you said that because she is the number one author that I kept thinking of actually, and it's not that Diana Wynne Jones is exactly the same, but she has a similar.
She's one of those authors. Yeah, she's just one of those authors where you always are aware that you're reading a Diana Wynne Jones book. Her voice is very strong.
And you can tell she sort of has an opinion on everything, and she stands, in a Jane Austen sort of a way, she stands outside of the characters and comments on things a little bit, or winks at things a little bit, lets you know she's in on the joke a little bit, but not in an obnoxious way. I don't know. Maybe there's no answer to my question. I thought it was a neat trick, because I felt like everything she was doing, especially the stuff early on about Sophie being the oldest, and like all the ways that this was or wasn't going to play into fairy tale conventions.
Well, I think that where the twee stuff becomes kind of exhausting is when it's either, oh, look how clever and smart I am, or it's, oh, look how weird and eccentric I am. And it just like takes that and just expands on that. And so it's just all about the weird. I know Jake doesn't like this word, but it's often associated with like hipster indie music, really. So like if you think of those boy and girl bands from the early
it gets
2000s.
narcissistic and self-referential.
Yeah, but so like who's that actress that was on Elf?
Zooey Deschanel.
She was in a band with some other guy, right? And
she and him.
They were like the iconic representation of that movement, but you had other bands that were just like them, the Noah and the Well and those kind of guys. Where it's all just about being cutesy and, smart, but superficial, and also but the big thing was to just be eccentric but not eccentric in an absolutely weird way, eccentric in a cute way. Right. So it's narcissistic and self-referential. And I don't think that Diana Wynne Jones does that.
Right.
In fact, she makes fun of it because that's what Howl is until he grows up.
Yeah. It's the difference between C.S. Lewis and his imitators, or Chesterton and his imitators, or
actually, I can think of weird. I have a
you've been listening to some conspiracy theories lately, Brandon.
Yeah, wow.
Old Q, he can be a little twee sometimes.
I can think of some twee imitators of
where it becomes about
Chesterton that are
look at how cute I am, and not about look at the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, that's the thing. Chesterton always feels like he's summoning all his powers of tweeness to make whatever point, and it's always it's.
And the point isn't I'm cute and funny and cool. It's like
the point is always something really profound. Yeah.
And I just happen to be cute and funny and cool, and so what can I do but make my point cutely and funnily and coolly? But it's not. I don't feel like I'm sweating to be cute and funny and cool.
Yeah, and then all the imitators are like, maybe I have a point and maybe I don't, but don't you think I'm cute and funny and cool?
Yeah.
As I try to maybe make something, I don't know, maybe the point's just that. I'm cute, funny, and cool.
It's like reading a bad high school piece of writing where you can tell they didn't actually have an idea. They had a phrase or a first paragraph or something that they wanted to show off.
Yeah, a metaphor, a turn of phrase, something like that.
Which I wrote a ton of that stuff in my time, folks. So I'm not going to beat up on other people.
Kind of a stage that you have to go through in the process of growing up and realizing that, the great line from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, if you're going to tell a story, try having a point.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. The other thing that occurred to me is if Sophie was more of a Harry Potter type character where she was written to complement the audience to, we're all Sophie and we're awesome, then this book would be
She's an avatar for my awesomeness.
Right. This book would feel a lot more insufferable. But the fact that Sophie's kind of a brat and she's kind of wrong and she needs to grow up, and the book doesn't seem to have much illusions about her or Howl or any of them. That's the most Jane Austen-esque part of the whole thing, is that she has a very sardonic view of human nature, and it comes across even for her. And she likes Sophie, and Sophie's got heroic qualities, but she's just Diana Wynne Jones. You know, if her characters are her children, she's very level-headed in the way that she thinks about them, which is nice and different than what you're used to in a lot of modern genre fiction, certainly.
Sardonic, but not spiteful.
No, she doesn't seem like... She seems like she really likes them, and it seems like she really actually likes them precisely kind of for their bratty qualities. Like, she finds Howl kind of charming because he's just a self-obsessed jerk. But she also, like Jane Austen, I mean, I know that's too highfalutin of a comparison maybe, but, you know, she also knows that Howl needs to grow up at the same time as she's like, okay, these characters are kind of cute. I have a soft spot for them.
And he can go home to Wales, and his sister's family is not like this ideal, perfect little nucleus family out in the countryside. Like the kids are like on the computer when he goes in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about even just how that, I mean, that's an inversion. I mean, how many people have done oh, look, ordinary kids in an English countryside or whatever, discover a magical wardrobe to another world, and we have to slowly set the stage and introduce all of this stuff. And she doesn't bother doing that. And what I almost said was that she doesn't bother insulting the reader or the children by doing that. I don't mean to imply that's what Lewis does. I just mean, hey, she throws you into the magical world, and then the jarring cool thing that happens is it's adjacent to our world. And that's where Howl's from. And, you know, now you are like, whoa, cool. Like, you know, this is not just some fantasy world out there. It's something that's accessible from our world that exists in our universe. And, you know, I don't know. It's just a fun inversion. Not many people do that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's without being hoity-toity about it, it assumes a level of intelligence on the reader's part. It assumes that you're probably familiar with fairy tale tropes.
Yeah. Or that you don't have to be familiar with fairy tale tropes to love fairy tales, because children have always loved fairy tales.
Right. Exactly.
And so I don't have to introduce you to the concept of a fairy tale. I can just throw you in the middle of one.
Any more than I have to spend time saying, hey, look at me. I used a John Donne quote. You just use it, and it can give a little extra to the brand.
Anybody that knows.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter.
You're just an uncultured swine.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You don't matter. Let's see. Favorite character. This is actually a tough one, I think, because this book has a lot of lovable gallery of characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to either Sophie or Calcifer for me.
Yeah.
Probably.
I kind of incline towards Calcifer, but that feels a little cheap and easy. So
yeah, you're like,
I like Sophie
was supposed
because
to be your favorite character.
Yeah.
Actually, Sophie is quite a bit like my wife.
Mm-hmm. An old hag.
I bit my tongue.
Yeah, that's exactly
just long enough
for
for you to beat me to it.
That's exactly what I meant.
I would only ever, I mean, I am a jerk, and sometimes I do shock humor, but I would only ever make that joke if it was not true at all. If Brandon's wife was actually an old hag, I would
never
not
make that joke.
Make a joke about her being an old hag.
She's bewitched, and she's an old hag, and I can't figure out how to break the spell on her, but whatever. I love you, dear.
You're saying she's like your wife, though, Sophie?
Yeah, character-wise, she is.
Yeah.
Quite a bit like her.
Stubborn, conceited, judgmental.
Yes.
Sorry.
Keep going.
I really liked Sophie. I found all the characters in this novel. I've never used this word on the podcast. I'll probably never use it again, but I found all the characters fetching. They were all very fetching. Like they were just really likable characters, just really beautifully broken, if you will.
Well, the beautiful thing about Sophie is that in how she's drawn, and you don't really know like how much of this is Sophie the young girl and how much of this is Sophie being impacted by, you know, now she's Sophie the old woman. but she's just like, she's turned into an old woman, and so she just becomes like the grumpy old woman who deals with it. Like she just deals with being an old woman, and it just feels very true to nature, I think. And so she's just like, I'm the old woman now, so I just do old woman things. I don't care what anybody thinks, and I do what I got to do, and I go where I got to go, and I don't make excuses for it. Like, I don't know.
Well, and it would have been so easy for Diana Wynne Jones to be heavy-handed with the whole theme of, you know, the things that I could never get away with as a young woman, now that I'm an ugly old hag, make total sense, and everyone expects of me. But she's got a light touch. She makes those points.
It's a super light touch all over the place. And I love, more than anything, I think I love the fact that Sophie just accepts it. Like, she's not like, oh, I'm so ugly and old and you know, we don't have a whole bunch of drama about it. It's just like, well, that happened. Now I guess I gotta go do the thing.
Yeah, Sophie's
this house is a mess, and I gotta clean it up.
Yeah. Sophie embodies that sort of thing that you love about the best of all women, that they're just kind of practical and like, okay, well, let me do the job. There's a job to do. There
are rules. I can't break them. No sense in complaining about them. Just gotta, do what's in front of me.
Way out of this, I'll figure it out eventually. But in the meantime, the house is dirty. Yeah. No, she's great, and yet Diana Wynne Jones has that little extra bit of distance from the character where you can see her as flawed. I mean, she's very similar to Hermione as a type, but Jo Rowling just likes Hermione a little. It's not even that she likes her. I think they both have affection for their characters, but Jo Rowling's always going to we're friends, by the way. That's why I call her Jo. J.K. Rowling, Miss Rowling to me, she's just always going to let her characters off the hook a little bit, which is our one and only complaint about the masterful series Harry Potter that we will come back to and do again one day, because it deserves even better than what we gave it.
But a pretty big complaint.
But it's
it is a big complaint, and the complaint that needs to be made.
Yeah, it's worth saying every fourth podcast, especially when we're talking about fantasy novels, because it is the fantasy touchstone, more than Tolkien even these days, and it is the fatal flaw of the fantasy touchstone. I mean,
the only character. I mean, Hermione's second only to Harry in terms of being let off the hook. I mean, Ron gets let off the hook a lot, but Ron still goes through some stuff.
Ron actually
goes through some stuff, like through a lot actually.
Ron actually kind of had to earn it. Like some of my favorite moments are in the 7th book / movie when Ron goes away and is tempted, and like that actually feels like a real arc for Ron, which is something that Harry and Hermione
never really
had, which is too bad. But we'll talk about that when you get us to 5K and we do our year-long Harry Potter deep dive, which I probably actually should just put that on the website. So are we all landing on Sophie as the best character?
Yeah, she's the best strong character. Calcifer is a lot of fun. But, I mean, she doesn't really bother to draw anybody as fully as she draws Sophie, so...
No, I mean, I love the portrait of narcissistic Howl, and I love the way that she's able to show his innate tender conscience and kindness beneath all his womanizer. He's a much simpler set of characteristics than Sophie is. And it's a little easier to see what she's doing.
Yeah, and we're coming from Sophie's perspective, so we see all of those things through the grid of Sophie, right? And so he's allowed to be drawn more simply, so is Scouse versus everybody else around. I mean, this is Sophie's story, Sophie's character, and it's the world through Sophie's eyes. So,
but she does have these nice touches, like just there's a part where she asks Calcifer to do something, I forget what it is, and she just notices that Diana Wynne Jones takes the time to make sure we know that Calcifer looks really pleased when he gets to show off his blue flaming arm or something like that. So just the fact that even this fallen star fire demon has this fragile sense of self and this vanity, I don't know. It's just it's very warm. It's very humane, and it's just really likable. I will keep making that point because I think it's one of the main things that I liked about this book, and one of the main reasons I would want to go back to her. I also just thought, in terms of romances. It's not like she's shooting for the moon or anything, but Howl and Sophie make sense together, and it's sweet that they come together and their relative strengths and weaknesses. I mean, we don't read what other romances. There's got to be another comparison point on the Bookening besides Austen, but how many romances have we read?
I mean, we read Jane Eyre, but
War and Peace.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Sophie there didn't turn out so well.
I mean, you could say, since you brought Tolstoy into it, just the sort of like low-key, matter-of-fact, is what it is. They are who they are of it all. Kitty and Levin could be, I mean, you could make worse comparisons, but...
Yeah, or Pierre and Natasha at the end of War and Peace.
Or Sonia.
Yeah. But
it's very Austen-like, and that really is the best comparison, because it's just not in any way over. It's very English. It's very...
It is.
Dry and...
dry, simple, subtle, understated is probably the best word for it, maybe. It's very understated.
That brings us to another topic, which is some of these things are just the whims of fate and time and fortune. The reason that Diana Wynne Jones never quite caught on in the mainstream could just be whatever, her publisher didn't advertise correctly. But do you guys have any theories as to, like, does this book go over people's heads or under people's heads, or like, is there... you're saying it was kind of dry. I was in that British way. I was wondering if maybe that was it or what.
I mean, I do think that her ending is so beautifully pulls everything together in sort of unexpected ways. She really undersells how masterful a job she did in structuring her plot and finishing her story. She really undersells it. And I do think that if she had patted herself a little on the back more.
If this book was worse, it could have been more popular, maybe.
Yes, exactly. If she would have put a great big bow on everything at the end, then I think that kids would love it more.
Well, it's not just a bow on the end; it's a bow on the beginning too. It's like now I'm going to tell you the most amazing story. That's what a lot of pot boilers do. Dinosaurs. They were made by scientists. That's the story I'm about to tell. I know the story sucks, but they
got you with dinosaurs made by scientists.
Right. You got this great big hook. And that's one thing, I guess, that she does not have is this book does not boil down into a delightful one sentence summary the way that Harry Potter, for example, it is
I think it is the comparison. It's a comparison point. As a plot technician, they share a lot in common, Rowling and Jones. But Rowling's just a little bit more, and you can argue about how knowingly she's doing this, but a little bit more knowingly ham-fisted, or a little bit more just not subtle in how she opens with a bang and closes with a bang. And I mean, I really, that's the seller. That's the kicker. That's the thing that, gets the kids talking about it.
Yeah. If you read any book about how to write novels, they're going to tell you to do what Rowling did. That's how you sell a book. I don't begrudge her it.
Jones, I mean, and that's appeal to a more childish palate. And Jones, even in her children's novels, has higher sensibilities than that and appeals to a more mature palate and so my kids love the books and enjoy them, but they're not like gonna obsess.
Yeah.
But if they probably don't even remember her name, except Peter does. But I mean, they had as much fun with that book as any book I've ever read to them through the middle of it and to the end. It resolves really nicely, really beautifully. But
it does that ending where everything it's like all these layers coming together.
Yeah, and especially when Hal touches the pine needles. Like
yeah, but the main theme is Hal, and so they're finally coming and confessing their love to one another, but Calcifer's coming back and all this stuff is happening. It's fun the way it's got a nice rhythm to it.
It really does. Yeah. You expect oh no, like Calcifer is gonna, like the whole book, you just think, oh no, the minute she lets Calcifer free, everything's gonna go crazy and we're gonna find out all this bad, what have you done? Like in this, she comes out of left field with everything. It's cool. It's just cool.
Yeah, it's nice to read a book. It's just a well-plotted book. All the dominoes fall at exactly the right place, and it has that perfect combination of feeling completely inevitable and kind of surprising at the same time, the way things play out. And
and because of how she does that, like I listened to the book, and I listened to it on like 2 times speed, so it's coming at me hard. So
you almost have to slow down a little bit.
This may play into what I'm about to say, but I had genuine surprises at the end and how things played out. I didn't have it all figured out beforehand, and I didn't feel the need to, and I didn't maybe some of that's just me, a different me than I was 2, 3, 5 years ago, in a different place in life. But I think some of it has to do with I was just enjoying the story, and it wasn't all about the plot, but the plot was great. And even though I'm a plot guy, she had me on the hook, and she had me to the end. And
yeah, you're right. She had some legitimate twists. I was not expecting the one witch to be the secondary bad guy, and the librarian, whatever she was, to turn out to be the big bad. That legitimately surprised me.
Yeah, it was nicely done. I liked when her aunt, or whatever it is, the maternal figure in her life, turns out not to be terrible. Just nice little things like that. This book has a nice moral sense to it. It has a nice sense of seeing yourself through someone else's eyes, seeing the world. I don't know. It was, I hate to get all soppy, but it was just a sweet little book. And let's not lose sight of the fact that she's a great fantasist. A moving castle with doors into different storefronts and locations, and all the disguises, and
powered by a falling star.
Powered by a falling star. It's all really great. And this is a world that I really wish I would have had, as I said earlier, as a kid, to just live in, to just imagine my own stories in, to, for it to sort of feed my crummy young writer's brain, when I would try and write things. Like, it's just the same way that the wood full of worlds in C.S. Lewis, or some of the really nice conceits in Narnia work.
Well, and to kind of do a Northrop Frye thing on this, she really taps into those archetypes that, even as a kid, when my granddad, or if I was at a house with a fireplace or something, you could imagine it being an engine that would run the house. Yeah. Especially if it's night and you can have the fire playing off the windows and on the floor, and it's just orange and the shadows around you. You just get this feeling that, there's something otherworldly, and it could be this machine that just picks up and starts moving. And so I just think she really tapped into that and made the most of it. So,
yeah.
Which I think, all that to say, I think good fantasy does that, right? So the pools in the woods, just the mystery of being in the middle of the woods and having these pools open up, and just this world that is at your feet that you can go and explore, kind of like coming upon a cave in the woods.
Yeah, horrifying in every way.
There actually is a cave that's within a mile or so of our house. It's kind of like that. It's this little hole in the ground beneath this tree, and when you go in there, it's like got some of the biggest cave formations I've ever seen in my life. It's pretty amazing.
That is cool.
That's one you guys could go into. It's not claustrophobic. Just a little bitty crawl at the beginning.
That little bitty crawl might be...
No, it's not nearly as... You go in the hole, and then it opens up in kind of this big, broad crawl where you don't feel closed in. You actually feel like you're crawling into some other kind of magical place. It's a fun cave.
It caves in on you, and you slowly starve to death in the dark.
That would probably happen.
Well, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
So you might not want to go in. Anyways, all that to say is I think she taps into that. Yeah. Whatever you want to call it, Jungian archetype, but whatever,
Well, good fantasy has to have the feeling of inevitability. You can't just say, the table was the engine that ran the house. It's a fire, because we see personality in fire, and fire is the engine for a steamboat. It has associations that make sense and feel inevitable.
In the fireplace of a home, and you go all the way back to the Romans with their hearth gods, right? There was a reason that the fire in the home has always seemed to be such a powerful image.
Well, and then you take in so much cosmology, angels and demons are stars, medieval cosmology and Hebrew cosmology, and so you have a fallen star as the fire demon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
lots of tropes there, more cleverly laid in and drawn from. Then again, Rowling's just pretty, by comparison, she's just drawing from one place. She's drawing from the occult, and again, it's what gives her potency. Exactly.
If wizards and witches had sports, it'd be on broomsticks. Let's combine two really obvious things, but nobody's combined them yet, and everybody can really imagine it.
Yeah, and it's as ubiquitous and universal. Like, she's using a lot of stuff that
the ring wraiths were scary. Let's let them fly.
That's one of the lamer ones, but yes,
it is one of the lamer ones. But still, the fact that she did it and did it all and did it well, you can't begrudge her for being a populist, right? A lot of what we celebrate and like to celebrate on this show and on shows like Sanity at the Movies, or at least engage with, is the fact that there's a real art to not just doing something technically well or beautifully, but also in a way that's accessible to the public and that's popular. It's like, we've talked about Raymond Chandler a lot on here because this is Nathan's example of this, but he wrote pulp detective novels, but he did them artfully. And when you can do that, when you can bridge that gap or cross that divide into taking something mainstream, that's a real art. And Rowling's a master of it, and Jones wasn't.
Raymond Chandler famously said, I just pulled up this quote because it sounded so much like what you were saying, and you were talking about Raymond Chandler. So he said, to exceed the limits of a formula without destroying it is the dream of every writer who is not a hopeless hack, which I think sums up nicely what you're talking about. You want to best the formula, but you don't want to break the formula. You want to take it and make it do new things for you, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, Diana Wynne Jones is great. I'm glad that she just got to be on the sidelines of history and write little novels. It's kind of like, would you rather be the person that everybody likes or the person that
some people love?
Some people love. Diana Wynne Jones will never have the kind of success that my good friend Joe has, but the people
won't love her more.
Well, okay, that's fair. But the people that vibe on this will really, really, really vibe on this. Like her way of doing things is just going to be a drug for a certain kind of person, and they will just.
I mean, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. But to be fair, like we've said many times, despite our criticisms of it, so is Harry Potter. So
yeah, it's such an obvious. It's kind of a hacky comparison point, but what were we supposed to do? Not compare the two of them?
I mean, I really enjoy both, but to be honest, I'm not sure that in the sum total effect of the best parts of Harry Potter, if I wouldn't want to keep Harry Potter over this if faced with that choice. But
that's easy. But
Harry Potter wins.
Yeah, Harry Potter's a full meal. This is just a delightful little souffle or something like that.
It's good.
Yeah. No, this is great.
It's really good, actually. It's really good.
We don't have to choose which one goes in the arc that's going to fly out of the world as it blows up. So we can.
I just know there's at one point in my life where I would have been the Wes Anderson loving, twee looking, wanting to find this sort
guy
of
who
thing.
was wrong.
And would have just wanted to really defend this and just say I had found this person. Oh, and everybody who loved J.K. Rowling was just an idiot, and Diana Wynne Jones is doing it right and all that. Yeah,
there are a lot of things that she does better than Rowling. And part of the joy of people like that is feeling like you get to keep them to yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the whole. That's what that's all about. And so that's why I wanted to say that about Harry Potter, is because I wanted to be able to say that to anybody out there listening who is like I used to be. That in these sorts of cases, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have both Harry Potter and Howl's Moving Castle and admit that they're both good.
Yeah. Be happy that J.K. Rowling is one of the greatest populists to live in the last 50 years. And be happy that there's all kinds of people that do all kinds of things better than she was ever able to do. And, it's great. It's great.
Like podcasts, she ain't got no podcast like this.
No, J.K. Rowling's podcast wouldn't be nearly as good as ours.
No way.
She just ranted.
Unless she joined our podcast, then I don't know. We'd see.
Joe, if you're listening, if you want to come rant about transgender stuff, I think you'd find a very welcome audience here, actually.
We will rant right along with you.
Yeah, unlike many podcasts, I imagine. So, or if you want to talk about something else, that'd be fine too. So,
just don't reveal that Dumbledore was a transgender character.
No, she wouldn't, because she doesn't.
I know. I'm just saying.
No, he's just gay. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, he is kind of gay. Guys, any more thoughts about old Hal or his moving castle?
Nope.
Hal's kind of gay, but he turns out to learn to be a man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sophie's kind of lesbian, but she turns out to learn to be a woman. It's a delightful moral fable. Or something. I don't know. Yay.
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 Well, speaking of Hal's moving castle, how would you guys like to do?
Do what?
How about we pause for the listeners to appreciate all the great things that are happening on this podcast?
I bet they're howling.
I know they're moved
to the moon.
Howling to the moon. I don't know, whatever. I don't need a transition. Let's do some patron shout outs. Now, remember, Anna's husband, Brandon, has a wife named Anna, and she hates when you guys say Frankenstein and Dracula.
Yeah, we've been doing other things in honor of her, so I'm just going to look up flavors of gummy bears.
Okay, well, I was going to say, if you could say your favorite monsters, that'd be great.
I've already got a shtick going, but go ahead.
Okay, Robert and Rhonda the Lovebirds.
Raspberry.
I know, raspberries are frightening as all get out. The Artful Anthony Dodger.
Pineapple.
Ooh. More like,
really fast.
I'll stab your spine, apple. Little Anthony's Cigar Store.
Blue raspberry.
More like Boo Raspberry.
That's gonna be great.
The immortal Chelsea E.
Mango.
More like Mangled. Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Oakley.
Peach.
More like Sneeches are politically incorrect. Dr. Seuss is canceled.
Light blue watermelon.
Oh yeah, I'm an idiot. Screech.
This is gonna take forever. Come on, let's go.
You take one step.
Yeah, just say the names.
Lily of the Valley.
Light blue watermelon.
Cherry. Yeah.
Fright blue watermelon.
Cherry.
Wild
Scary. Andrew and Esther the Lovebirds.
Grapefruit.
Grave. The Keith Master.
Strawberry.
Straw Scary. David the Mighty Men Trucking.
Green apple.
Scream Apple. John and Jill and Little Baby Max.
Berry red.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
White strawberry banana.
Fright Strawberry Banana. Fairy Princess of Wonder and Happiness Mother
banana.
Beth.
That sounds tasty.
It's like pina colada, right?
Yeah.
But not.
Screamia Palada.
It's better than
Consul
that.
Prime Adam.
I don't know why I said that, because that's not it.
Do you like getting caught in the rain?
Nathan, not me. Not really.
I like
sometimes.
Gummy bears. Did you know that Albanese makes gummy army guys?
Ooh. Well, next time I'm up in Lake County, I'll have to grab some gummy army guys.
Watch, I'll send them to you.
This sounds like they're...
People may not know, but if you're not from Indiana and you're not around the Albanese gummies, then you've missed out because they're the best gummies.
Yeah, I don't even like gummies that much, but I love Albanese gummies.
They just have, man, they're good stuff.
They're good stuff. Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. They're just
cool.
like classic green army men.
Yeah, the classic
Gummy
green
foam.
army men. Yep.
Huh. Weather alert.
Way to support the military-industrial complex, Albanese.
The warm weather impacting many regions of the country may affect how and when your order will ship.
Come on, guys. Here we go.
Our customer service team is working closely with customers
Here
to
we go.
ensure that your product arrives to you in best quality.
DJ Sammy G, they're not going to send you your gummies
Because they might
of the
melt.
weather?
Orange cream bearsicle gummy bears.
Benny and Danny Tiberius.
You don't want them to melt.
It's true.
Or Ben and Tin. I mean, either. That'd be awful if they melted.
Eric and Catherine from Round Window Breaks.
I would never put them in a U-Haul truck without air conditioning.
I wouldn't put them in there either. Sorry.
No, let's not put anybody in a U-Haul truck without air conditioning. I once saw an episode of the animated show Dennis the Menace where there was this bully and he was fighting the bully. And like the whole time it was like, will Dennis learn to stand up to the bully? And then Dennis learned Kung Fu and he kicked the bully into a moving truck. And then the guys came and closed the moving truck and were like, this one's going to China.
Nice.
And I was very disturbed by that as a child. The idea that I could be kicked into a moving truck. And then, I guess this was the show writer, the animated children's show writer's idea of how to dispatch a villain without killing him. But
that killed him.
Yeah. I think he just withered away and it was pretty horrifying. But, Dennis is a menace. So what can you say?
It's like I was reading an article about COVID pets, and apparently over this last year, a lot of people have been ordering pets online and getting them shipped from China. And what you'll have happen is you'll get yourself a dead French poodle in a box when it shows up on your doorstep. So
maybe that's what you wanted.
Maybe that is what you wanted. Maybe it's
why are they ordering French poodles from China?
I don't know, Nathan.
That sounds like
people are stupid, Nathan.
And lonely. People are stupid and lonely. And so one of the ways they're fixing this is they have animatronic dogs and cats that they'll take to nursing homes and to
I have seen those
out in the world.
Frankenstein.
Rachel.
Jay of Rack and Ruin, Timothy the Writer at Dawn, Eric and Kate the Champ Kings, who are warm and love Maddie, Sweet Jamie Sunshine,
Dracula.
We're like Gravenstein.
Oh, that's great, Nathan. How many more names do you have left?
Only 20 or so. Tyler the Keeper of Eternal Life, Laura the Keeper of Eternal Life, Cold Steel Kid, Jacob the Librarian, Barbarian, John Bobadilla, Diggity, and Captain Neil, his mate, Saxophone Alex, the other phone, Saxophone Alex, and Dubstep Danny, Ryan the Terror of Texas, and Eric of the Cream and Crimson, no longer stuck in the cold, please. She's Bed Solo, Kylo Ren, John the Cosmic King of Chaos, Matthew the Mind Flayer, Annie, are you okay? Get your gun, Flight of the Valerie, Thor Ragnarjosh, Steven, Matt, Peglodon, Christopher, the Flower Hulk, Lady of the Crystal Lake, Ian the Death of Miriam, Lord of Death, Emily M, a man in possession of an Emily, and want of nothing, Emily Nightshade, the Haunter of Dreams, all about the Benjamin,
Frankenstein.
And we have a new supporter, fellas, to welcome. This is a true story. His name's not Frankenstein. That's not the true part.
This is a true story, people. The names of those involved have been changed.
No, I'm keeping this one the same.
Otherwise, all the events are told the same out of respect for the
dead.
Now, I've never actually appeared on a podcast with this fella, but my understanding is that he was dead or something
like that.
But
that's how all the Fargo episodes open up.
Are we in the same conversation anymore?
I don't know. You said something about a story, so I figured you're about to tell us a Fargo story.
I'm waiting. I want to know.
I'm not about to tell a Fargo story. I'm about to tell you that someone named, and this is not a joke, Mysterious Phantom, supporting the podcast to the tune of $10 a month for a donor shout out. And
welcome, Mysterious Phantom.
Yeah, welcome, Mysterious Phantom. His email, I won't give it away on the air, but it is something along the lines of Mysterious Phantom at Yahoo or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So we are being supported by someone who identifies completely as Mysterious Phantom.
That's awesome.
That is not terrifying in the least.
Yeah. Well, some people just like to get in on what they consider to be the most popular and well-liked segments of certain shows like ours.
Yeah.
And so,
You know who I think needs to show up in the new season of Chip and Lance?
Who dat? Sparky?
Definitely
Mysterious
Sparky,
Phantom?
No, that'd be terrible.
Fat Alplane.
Yes.
No, Fat Alplane.
And Britney Spears.
Oh, man. I think the finest moment in this podcast was when we said he loved Fat Alplane. It was a spoof of 1984's Last Line. I don't remember who said it, but everything to do with Fat Al Plane. Man, I love that guy. I love Fat Al Plane.
It's been around in a while.
Hey guys, what baggage did you bring to
Oh no.
Howl's Moving Castle?
Serious?
Oh, we already did that, Nathan. It's too late.
I don't. Yeah, whatever.
I read Harry Potter, and I'd never read Diana Wynne Jones.
Our good friend Ben Sulzer loves Diana Wynne Jones and is always honest to do her. And we kind of did this episode in honor of him. I guess we could say that.
In memoriam.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So long, Ben.
Yeah. Sorry you got hit by that truck, buddy.